You're sitting at someone else's Thanksgiving table. Maybe it's a friend's house, maybe your partner's. Their family is loud, messy, arguing over something small and meaningless. And you're watching it all quietly, thinking to yourself, I don't have this anymore. It's not that you weren't invited. You were, but you chose not to go. At some point during dinner, someone casually asks, "So, where's your family?" You smile politely and give a vague answer, because the real explanation takes too long, and honestly, most people don't actually want to hear it. They prefer the simple version. Oh, they couldn't make it this year. So the conversation moves on. But inside, you're still sitting with the weight of that decision, a choice most people will never fully understand, because society has already decided what the story must be. If someone cuts off their family, they must be selfish, ungrateful, dramatic. But what people rarely see is this. The ones who walk away from family are usually the ones who tried the longest. Estrangement sounds like a cold clinical word, but living it is anything but cold. It's the birthdays you don't celebrate together anymore. It's walking through a grocery store, seeing someone who looks like your mother, and feeling your chest tighten for a moment. It's explaining to your children why they don't see one set of grandparents. It's defending a decision you've already debated 1,000 times in your own mind to people who barely know you. The truth is, we live in a culture that worships family. Blood is thicker than water. We've built entire belief systems around the idea that family love is sacred and unconditional. So when someone walks away from it, the assumption is simple. They must be the problem. But what if the story is actually the opposite? Imagine someone who spent their entire 20s driving 3 hours every holiday just to sit at the table where they felt invisible. Not necessarily unloved, but unseen. Every conversation eventually circles back to what they haven't accomplished yet, who they haven't become, why they're still not quite enough. And yet they keep going back every year, because that's what you're supposed to do. Leaving feels like betrayal, and hope is incredibly hard to let go of, especially when it's aimed at the people who raised you. Then one year, they simply don't go. And surprisingly, the world doesn't end. But the grief that follows, that feels like something ending. Researcher Dr. Carl Pillemer from Cornell University studied family estrangement for years. What he discovered challenges most people's assumptions. According to his research, people rarely cut off family because of one dramatic event. Instead, it's usually a slow unraveling. Years of trying, conversations that go nowhere, apologies that never come. The same painful patterns repeating again and again, until one day something shifts, and the cost of staying becomes greater than the cost of leaving. That's not giving up. That's someone who carried the weight for a very long time and finally put it down. Something many people don't understand is that those who walk away still grieve, not just once, but over and over. They grieve the parent they needed but never truly had, the sibling relationship that could have been, the version of family that seemed normal everywhere else, just not in their own home. That grief doesn't disappear just because the relationship did. But interestingly, many people describe something they didn't expect: silence. For the first time in their adult lives, things feel quiet, like the background noise they've been living with for years has finally stopped, and they can hear their own thoughts again. From the outside, that might look like indifference, but it's not. It's relief. The kind of relief that happens when you've carried something heavy for so long you forgot you were even carrying it. Let me ask you something. Have you ever tried to explain why a certain relationship drains you, and the other person just doesn't understand? From the outside, everything looks normal. There are no bruises, no obvious crisis, just a quiet, steady feeling that you're never quite enough, that love in this family comes with conditions, that your needs are inconvenient, that the real version of you isn't fully welcome here. Psychologists call this emotional invalidation. When the people who are supposed to make you feel safe consistently dismiss what you feel, it slowly reshapes how you see yourself. It teaches you that your emotions aren't valid, that needing something from others might be unsafe. It's not explosive damage. It's erosion. Like a slow leak in a ceiling that eventually weakens the entire structure. That's why most people don't walk away from family because something suddenly exploded. They leave because something slowly wore away at them over time. And even when they know leaving was the healthier choice, it can still feel like they're the villain. A voice inside keeps asking, did I give up too soon? Should I have forgiven more? Should I have needed less? But that guilt isn't proof you made the wrong choice. It's actually proof that you cared.
You had love to give. It just didn't have a safe place to land. People who truly don't care don't wrestle with guilt. They just leave and never look back. But most people who walk away do look back, again and again. Some people eventually reach a point where the guilt fades, not because the past didn't matter, but because they've knocked on the same door so many times their hand simply stops reaching for it. So here's the thing to remember. Cutting off family isn't the easy way out. There is no easy way out. It's simply choosing one kind of pain over another. And sometimes, though not always, it can be the most compassionate decision a person can make for themselves. Sometimes even for the people they're leaving behind. Because a relationship built on obligation, resentment, and performance isn't really love. It's a contract. And some contracts need to end before either person can move forward. There are people listening to this right now who spent years making themselves smaller just to fit inside a family that was too small for who they truly are. And they were told that's loyalty, that's love. But constantly shrinking yourself just to survive isn't noble. It's just survival. You're allowed to want more than that. The people who distance themselves from their families aren't heartless or dramatic. They're often people who loved deeply, sometimes desperately, and eventually had to make an impossible choice between that love and themselves. And they chose themselves, which might be one of the hardest and most quietly devastating choices a person can ever make. If any part of this resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you're somewhere in this story right now, still trying to figure things out, you're not alone. Not even close.